Welcome to Shamrock Reddit Stories, where an entitled neighbor risks killing her own grandchildren to try to get my property. This one is from Alex Moreno 794, and it's called Entitled Brat Stole My Son's Nintendo Switch and Claim It's His. Long story short, my son attends elementary school. Since it is his first year in that school, he's still adapting. The principal called me as there's a situation I have to discuss about a claim against my son stealing a Nintendo Switch. It was so weird because I bought him one a month ago, so it wasn't necessary at all for him to do that. I said okay, and the next day I went to the principal's office. As it turns out, a brat was claiming my son stole his Nintendo Switch. The boy's parents were backing their son, telling the principal how my son was delusional, as their boy clearly didn't need to steal to have fancy things. Well, that was so nasty. Anyway, I laughed at them and asked the parents if they feel okay teaching their son to steal. I then showed the principal the bill of the purchase and its box with the serial number. The parents went pale. The principal gave them a lecture about integrity and gave the brat a 5-day suspension. At the end of the meeting, the principal told me this will never happen again, and the teachers are going to keep an eye on that little brat in order to keep him away from my kid. I really don't know how they could pretend to prove the Switch was bought by them, yet they had the nerve to try. I picked up my son from school and we went shopping for a new video game he asked me for. Later, I treated him to a pizza, as he loves pizza. Seamus salutes you, OP, for that fine record-keeping and forethought to bring the receipt for the Nintendo Switch to the meeting with the principal and the bratty kid's parents. That's a mightily messed up parenting on the brat's parents' part. Oh my God, that bratty kid is going to grow up with the morals of I don't know, a politician? If you can muster the effort of your mouse hand, why don't you just reach on over to that mouse and move it right over to the like, subscribe, and notification buttons so that Seamus will quit griping to me about our channel not growing fast enough. I mean, holy moly, he's a bother. It's a good thing he's cute. This one's from Phoenix Arise, and it's called Neighbor Risks Killing Her Own Grandchildren to Get My Parents' Property. The backstory. This happened in the 1990s. My parents own a 40-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. After 5 years, the trailer next door that was on 2.5 acres went up for sale. The dogs were put in an outside pen while the new neighbors were moving in. The husband looked like he killed his own mother and enjoyed it. But the dogs didn't give off a whimper. When the wife came up the driveway, however, the dogs went nuts and wanted to tear into her. Our dogs are not violent, but we later came to understand why they behaved that way. My mom, being the nice southern lady that she is, went next door to introduce herself and wanted to know more about the new neighbor. It all seemed well until the wife asked who owned the field behind her house. Mom bashfully replied that it was hers and my dad's. Mom told me after that the conversation got awkward and Mom excused herself. A couple of weeks later, Mom and Dad were coming home from shopping and found 3 kids no older than 7 all over the farm equipment. Mom and Dad chased them off to the neighbor's house. My mom went over and asked why those kids were over there. They found out it was the neighbor's grandchildren. When my mom told her that they needed to stay away from the farm equipment because one of them will get hurt, the neighbor said, "I don't care if one of them gets killed. I want that field one way or the other," pointing to the field behind her house. Mom and Dad immediately called the sheriff and an attorney to find out what they could do to protect themselves. They had both said that they needed a no trespassing sign every 100 feet around the entire property, especially where the equipment is normally stored. So Mom and Dad installed the signs around the property and they started disappearing. One time, as Mom was coming down from a tree to put it up high enough to where they had to come on the property to get it down, a gun blast hit the sign above her head, and off in the distance was the neighbor wife yelling smugly, "Oops, I guess my gun went off accidentally." Things cooled down only when my brother came home on weekends from college to watch the house. Plus, my parents made their schedule more random during the week so the neighbors didn't know if anyone was there or not. However, they were still causing problems like small things disappearing from our yard, and they would say that it must be some druggie looking to steal anything for drugs. It got so bad at one point in time that Mom and Dad asked if they could buy their property. The property was worth about $50,000 at the time, and my parents offered $60,000. The wife said, "Sure, you can buy my property at $250,000. Take it or leave it." Even my parents' property at the time was not worth that much, so they left it. However, 2 years after the offer, things took a turn for the better. The husband wanted a divorce from his wife. This was a grand total of 4 years of dealing with her. Side note, the husband never met my parents until a week prior to his moving out. He said his wife told him that my parents, especially my mom, were crazy and for his safety needed to stay away from them after my mom's initial visit. When he finally figured out that his wife was the crazy one, he left her. About a month later, the husband came back talking about how the divorce was going and wanted to know if they were interested in the property. They told him about the offer 2 years ago, and he said that he never heard about it nor about his grandchildren coming over hoping that one of them would get hurt, but it didn't surprise him. When we told him how much we offered, he said, "The divorce attorneys said that the sale of the house will be split 50-50. I don't care if you offer a nickel," just to spite her. A week later, the wife came to my parents' house asking if they were willing to buy at the $60,000 they offered initially. Mom and Dad said that they will buy it at what the appraiser will say it's worth. Because of the depreciation of the trailer and because the wife didn't take care of said trailer, it was appraised at $40,000. Mom was ready to be spiteful and offer $30,000, but Dad disagreed and said that it would be a good restart for a guy that had to live through that for all those years. How about that entitled neighbor, hoping that one of her grandkids gets hurt or killed on OP's parents' property so that she can sue and get said property? That's some bat guano crazy, folks. That's all for this one, folks. I hope that you liked and were entertained by this video. In any event, may the wind always be at your back and may the road rise to meet you. Until next time, folks.